prompt I've chosen to do first is, can suffering create wisdom? And I already took my prep time before the video. So that it wouldn't just be awkward on the video. Okay. A couple years back, I lost my grandpa. And that really changed me. I went through a lot of things that I wouldn't have gone through if I didn't lose him. But those things were what have helped me in helping other people out. So losing my grandpa and suffering gave me the wisdom to be able to help people through tough times. So that's why whenever asked, can suffering create wisdom? I believe the answer is yes. So today, we're going to look at what wisdom really is, how suffering can bring about wisdom, and finally, how we can put our suffering into effect and use it for wisdom. That was weird. Alright, I'm going to try those again because that wasn't the third point that I thought of. We're going to look at what wisdom is, why suffering can create wisdom, and finally, we're going to look at some real-life examples of how we can use that wisdom. So, what is wisdom? Well, wisdom is whenever you have a deep kind of knowledge. Somebody that's wise may be able to give some of the best advice you've ever heard. Somebody that's wise might be very old, or they might be young, but have lived many years. Wisdom comes with experience, and experience can give us wisdom in the same ways. And some experiences include things like suffering. And suffering can help us earn wisdom. So why can suffering help us to get wisdom? Well, first of all, whenever we suffer, we go through hard challenges or even just hard times. Suffering is not something anybody wants to do, but it's something that happens multiple times throughout everyone's life. So how can this suffering affect our wisdom? Well, like I said, wisdom comes from experience, and even bad experience can create wisdom. And so by suffering through something, you learn from it, and that knowledge is what gives us wisdom. Now that knowledge that you get from suffering becomes wisdom, and that wisdom can help you through many different things in your life. If the suffering is from a problem or a decision that you made wrong, then the wisdom you get from it can help you to not make that same mistake again. And you can learn from the suffering through wisdom. So, what are some real-life examples of how suffering creates wisdom and wisdom helps us in our lives? Well, like I said earlier, whenever we experience loss, then we understand what it feels like to lose someone. And we can be there for somebody else who has lost someone. If you experience suffering and you see someone else experiencing the same suffering, then you know how you felt at that time, and you know how you can help them. And that is where the wisdom of suffering comes into effect. Whenever you see somebody else suffering in the same way you did, and you can learn how to help them. Another great example of suffering creating wisdom is whenever we do something wrong. Doing something wrong can become suffering. For example, at a job, if you do the wrong thing and cause some issues, then a boss could get onto you and could cause you suffering. But that suffering can bring you to know how to do that right the next time. So, in conclusion, wisdom is something that comes from many experiences, and suffering is an experience, even though it's a bad one, and suffering brings about wisdom. And today, we also looked at some great examples of suffering bringing wisdom that you can put into real life experiences. Thank you. Okay, that wasn't bad.